Hello and welcome to this session of Tech Talks. My name is Inbar Price. I'm a correspondent at MLEX, and today we're talking all about standards for the crypto industry. And these are the kinds of standards which are set for all developed technological industries and markets and products. And these are standards which are set by independent bodies, both on international, national, and EU level, and in different jurisdictions. And when it comes to the crypto industry, these organizations have been busy developing the kinds of standards that will shape the kinds of products that stakeholders and retail users and companies will be able to use and develop. And by the end of 2024, the EU, the official EU standard setting organization, which is called Sensenelic, will publish its standards for the blockchain technology and specifically on the environmental impact. And these standards have been in development over the past year and a half, and there are even more coming in 2025. This is coming at the same time as the EU's landmark crypto legislation known as the Markets in Crypto Assets legislation, or else MiCA. It's being now implemented over the coming year and a half. And in this regulation, there are also laws on how crypto asset issuers and exchanges listing crypto assets need to disclose the negative impact of environmental greenhouse gases and so on. So with us to discuss all of this is Belén Suarez, who is an expert economist in several international, national, and EU level standard setting bodies. So please, Belén, if you could explain to us more about your role when it comes to setting standards for the blockchain industry.
Okay, so thank you very much, Inbar, for the conversation and for the invitation. I am Belén Suarez. I am economist, expert on standard. As you mentioned, I am working on different level, at the international level at ISO, in several areas, not only on blockchain, also innovation management, sustainability, but the most critical for crypto assets, of course, is on blockchain. So I am leading at ISO the standard on governance area for blockchain and DLTs. At the European level, I am leading the standard on environmental sustainability of blockchain and DLT applications. And at the national level, in addition to blockchain, I'm also the chair of the Spanish Standardization Technical Committee on Research, Technological Development, and Innovation Management. And the main idea is support the industry in these tasks. I am also giving the voice to the European SMEs in the development of the potential implementation of the digital product passport that is quite important on sustainability regulation, not exactly on MiCA. But this would be a significant disruption for all the organization, and let's see in the future. And in addition to this, I am a co-founder of Go to Innovation Intelligence. It is a network of experts providing consultancy services, helping the industry not only to use and implement and exploit the opportunity of use standard in the different verticals on blockchain, on AI, on sustainability, but the most important, helping organization to participate and setting in a standard development, which is quite critical in order to create competitive, let's say, competitive opportunities and growth at the end of the day. So it is the main work I am working and collaborating with a lot of European organizations, but the most important thing is how a standard can solve market needs, and in the case of today, crypto assets market. Thank you.
So much, Belén. And why would you say it's important to set standards for especially a young industry like crypto and blockchain?
Okay, it is quite important because we have to understand very clear what the standards are. Standards are providing, firstly, technical requirements in cases needed because regulation or because the market, the industry as a whole need to solve key, let's say, technical problem on security, on interoperability, on smart contract, on governance, on different areas, okay? But also is supporting the regulation, informing new regulation in case of MiCA, or supporting the implementation of this regulation. At the end, the regulation is providing, let's say, a set of requirements, but how the industry can comply with this requirement, but also can avoid overburden some players in the market with this regulation is quite important and need additional explanation. And it is exactly what the standards are providing. So a standard is helping on provide a common language. There is a lot of application, sometimes a fragmented market, as the case of the crypto assets. So we need to have first a common language and harmonized methodologies to facilitate interoperability, integrability among solutions. We need, for instance, engage key stakeholders, let's say investor, let's say partnership between large and small organizations, and the most important, engage consumer and create trust for consumers. So it can be only achieved from common, let's say, common principles, common language, and common and harmonized standard that support at the end market growth. And it is exactly why it's important to participate, not only to implement, before to implement, standards are creating markets. It is fundamental true. We have to understand very clear. And it's a question from the organization viewpoint, how do you prefer? You want to be the follower or you want to be an innovator? You want to lead the future or you want to adapt only to the market requirements? So if you are thinking on competitive advantage, if you are thinking on growth, if you are in a small organization, try to defend a strategic position in the market, or you are a large organization looking for leading one concrete segment, at the end, you need to think to be the first. And to be the first, you need to be near to the standard development, not only wait what is the requirement and then I will comply in a couple of years. Before of this, there is an adaptation, there is a lot of opportunities, and it's quite critical. Participate on a standard, understand how a standard works, how influence on a standard, also from geographical, let's say, geopolitical situation. It's not the same at the ISO level. We have a European expert, but also there is US expert, there is Japanese expert. And let me only give you an example. On blockchain, there is most of the working groups, most of them are led by US and UK. Only two European from the European Union experts are coming from Spain, one on a smart contract and another on governance. The rest of the whole future standard will be leading by US, by UK. So it is why it's fundamental from the political viewpoint, but also from the industry viewpoint, give the voice and participate and influence in standard development.
Very interesting to hear how, actually the standards being set for in such a technical manner actually reflect a much broader political reality. Yeah. And I guess there's other pitfalls as well to what kind of voices are included when it comes to setting standards in the crypto industry, because I suppose, there's so many different ways to approach a crypto asset or blockchain technology, if it's, startups or bigger corporations. So do you see those kinds of dynamics also reflected when developing standards?
Yeah, it's true that we have, let's say, as a principle, give the voice to all the players, especially SMEs. I am representing SMEs in most of the, on the technical committee I'm participating in the name of the Small Business Standard that was created by the European Commission in order to give the voice to small players. But in any case, at the end, it's not only the type of organization, also is a type of solutions, and it's quite important. This is why we need to have on a standard a good sample of the industry, because if the standard is leading only by some small number of players, at the end, the standard will not be useful for the industry as a whole, will create a competitive advantage for these companies developing a standard. So, of course, participation from startups, understanding the needs and expectation and the resources of SMEs are quite critical on standard development. It is why the SBS is pushing the adoption of a standard, development of a standard, keep in mind what are the resources, what are the needs, what are the real obstacles in the implementation of a standard, And especially on crypto assets is quite important because it's a fragmented market. It's a global market, but fragmented market. And this orientation to inclusiveness of any kind of organization, I have to say that in my personal experience is more or better defended from the European values. So when I have this conversation with some expert coming from Asia, coming from, I don't know, US, coming from other let's say, ecosystem, okay, they understand more or less the needs, but on practical terms, in the negotiation process of to drafting a standard is not so easy to understand. So I think that European experts, we come with a great, let's say, support from our institutions and even support from the SBS and the Thales May Alliance, a lot of, let's say, representative organization of different players.
Very interesting. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the process of setting standards. Is it very, I guess it's on a process people are very familiar with, and it's a bit of a black box. And I'm also curious how it links, if at all, with the legislative process of developing regulations for crypto assets in the EU institutions, for example.
Yeah. So it is two questions. The first question is how to set in on a standard. It's very clear. To participate on a standard, any organization have to reach the national standardization body, only one, normally in Spain, in all the countries, there is one national body, and then you have to reach this national body and participate there. Normally, it is on a small cost or any cost, depending of the country, okay, depending of the type of organization. And then you can participate in a lot of documents. But in case you are one company only interested in one concrete document, not in the process of standardization, also there is the opportunity not be engaged on the standardization body, but participate as a liaison organization. So you have to send a request to send, hey, I am interested in this area. This is, our association of companies and will be interested in this document, then you can participate also in this process. It is for a standard supporting the industry in general. For a standard supporting legislation, that is another area of contribution from a standard viewpoint. Normally, before launch regulation, in that case, the European Commission asks for a technical aspect, or in the case of MiCA regulation, there is the acts for European Security Market Authority collaborate with the European Bank Authority to draft regulation technical standard, in that case, to inform about the content, about the data, about the methodologies, to inform on the negative impact of crypto assets, for instance. Okay, so a standard can inform as an input for developed regulation, but when the regulation is published, additional explanation how to implement is also needed from a standardization viewpoint support.
What's the consequence of not complying with the standards that are set by these kinds of organizations?
Yeah, there is different areas, okay? Because firstly, if we don't comply with the standard, it means that we will not exactly be able to defend or to create trust in our customer, okay? Because we need to explain that we are using and we are supporting some principles. So it could imply most probably reputational risk for your customer, difficulty to attract investment, and also key partners for scale your solution into the market, potential penalties in case these requirements are linked to one concrete legal requirements on MiCA regulation. And thinking on proactive viewpoint, in my view, is lose the opportunity to compete because you are a follower, you are the last in the market adopting some requirements when most of your competitors from the beginning, maybe months ago or years ago, are increasing the quality of their product, the security, the interoperability of their solution, the integrability. So I think that is it's not, let's say, very clear in the short term what is the negative impact of not comply or not use a standard or not participate on a standard. But in the long term, it's very, very clear the difference between companies. It is why we see on a standardization world, the leading organization on the global level. So Huawei, Microsoft, any brands you have in mind are there. And now the main task for us, for all of us, is to support also startups, SMEs, and young entrepreneurs, new projects, new entrant in the market in order to allow them also innovate and growth.
I see. So maybe let's dig into an example so we can understand. You've been working with the environmental and sustainability indicators and standards for the crypto industry, which are also signified in the MiCA regulation. So maybe you can walk us through what the work has been like from your end.
Yeah. MiCA regulation highlights something that is quite important. That is, in order to compare between solutions, we need to work from indicators. Better ensure this comparability, we need to have harmonized methodologies, most probably harmonized metrics, and also working from some common principles. So it is let's say, the cornerstone of the regulation and the standardization work from MiCA. And but also we need to consider on blockchain what are the key areas of negative environmental impact. One of the fundamental aspects to consider is the consensus mechanisms used for this for one concrete crypto asset. This is a cornerstone on negative environmental impact. Everybody knows about Bitcoin, proof of work, about other solution, proof of stake, and any other. It is why we start to provide a technical standard in order methodology to assess what is the energy consumption of this consensus mechanism in order to be able to labeling them and classify them according the negative impact on the environment. But there is more work. For instance, ISMA is asking from different indicators, not only energy consumption, because at the end, energy consumption is not creating, let's say, climate change. Also greenhouse gas emission on the source of energies used for this DLT network is quite critical. Also the use of natural resources, water and more. Also, for the device used on the hardware used on this network. So there is a set of questions. And it should be not only for the production, but also the use and the disposal. So it is a set of indicators we have to consider in order to provide an accurate picture of the footprints of DLT's crypto assets. It is the tax that is highlighted by ESMA. In my viewpoint, my personal viewpoint, is only focused on the negative impact, but should be fair not only to understand the negative impact, also the positive impact, and then give at the end the net balance and the high picture of the technology. But for the moment, it is what MiCA is asking for, indicators on the negative impact. And this is the work we are developing on CENELEC, JOITC 19 on working group to this type of area, but also we are thinking on what are the use cases, concrete use cases, analyze case by case the peculiarities of these use cases, and also anticipate the future, maybe second version of MiCA, where not only negative impact, but also positive impact could be considered.
So the negative impacts are essentially the high, the energy intensive consensus mechanisms that are at the foundation of models like Bitcoin. So because it consumes a lot of energy, do you have any kind of examples of how much energy we are talking about, even if it's a comparison? I know in the past, many institutions and leaders have compared it to countries. I know that is a contested way of measuring how energy intensive it is, but could you give us any perspective?
Yeah, it is a very, very interesting question, because depending on who is producing, let's say, the statistic, we have different picture. Okay, from one side, regulation institutions are using different methodologies that they're not measuring from data. It is not collecting data and then we are measuring. They are calculating based on some assumption what is the energy consumption of Bitcoin in one concrete moment. However, we see initiative from the industry, from the Bitcoin associations, trying to report their contribution on energy consumption. And now we have a fight, let's say, from the industry viewpoint, from the owner of the process. They say, hey, it is my energy consumption. I pivot my activity not from electricity source, but I am working from a renewable source of energy. So I reduce, I am more greener. And on the other side, we have a lot of publication regarding what is the energy consumption, as you said very well. In some cases, we hear, hey, now Bitcoin has a similar energy consumption that countries as Belgium, recently even as Spain. So it is, we have an umbrella of potential, let's say, evaluation, but at the end, we have no concrete data. And we have no concrete data because before to capture data, we need to have an harmonized methodology. And it's quite difficult because blockchain is not only one technology. So it is an umbrella of technologies, a set of technologies with different consensus mechanism, but with different infrastructure, with different design. So establish one methodology that could be applicable to all the cases in order to compare between them is one of the main obstacles we are facing, honestly, on CENELEC. And I think that the industry and the regulators are facing in this moment, because we cannot compare if we have no, as I mentioned before, harmonized indicators, harmonized methodologies, let's say quantitative metrics, not only assumptions, not only qualitative statements from the industry or from third parties. And of course, we need to have a common principles. If not, it's impossible to compare. So now we can see the last estimation I saw was, okay, currently Bitcoin represents the energy consumption of countries as Spain, like Spain, so it is very big. But I have to say that for the moment, it's only an estimation.
I see. And I want to also go back on one other thing that you mentioned, which is the positive impact of certain crypto assets or blockchain technologies. Can you maybe give listeners an idea of what you mean? What kind of examples of use cases are there that are a positive impact, which should be measured maybe to potentially counteract this negative greenhouse emissions quantifiers?
There is a lot of use cases. For instance, on supply chain, providing, reducing the cost of verification on supply chains. Also the support of the industry in the case of energy sector, when we have to work from the 4Ds, decentralize it, support the consumer, not only to consume energy, but also provide be the provider of energy. We can speak even on sustainability reporting. This is one of the use cases we are analyzing in our standard, how blockchain can support the accuracy and also integrity of the data on sustainability reporting. That is a new regulation also from the European viewpoint. Okay. Not only in the content, how to provide integrity in the content, and it's quite important. Also, there is a lot of application on AI, on sustainability that requires integrity of data. And this is exactly how blockchain can support. So there is a lot of use cases. Also, we have one standard at the ISO level on use cases. And the European level, we are working on use cases from an environmental viewpoint. But from social sustainability and economic sustainability, there is a lot of opportunities. Despite of that, we have to recognize that blockchain is in maturity stage of development. So most of the projects are near to pilots. So we need to scale solutions. We need to scale the industry. But to scale, we need to understand what are the main obstacles, the main bottlenecks to face in terms of security, in terms of complexity of the technology, in terms of attract key stakeholder, investment, customer. And this is why I think that more or less regulation supporting create trust is always welcome from the industry viewpoint.
So I'd also like to, you mentioned a little bit of the challenges when it comes to measuring, the emissions and the impact of different crypto assets. Are there other challenges that you're facing? And maybe we can also discuss how the standards you're developing are linked to the regulations like MiCA.
Yes. Well, for instance, I would say that one of the main challenges, in addition to the diversity and the immaturity level of the technology as a whole, I will mention that the granularity of the data, okay? Because we are speaking on crypto assets in a global solution, however, decentralized solution. So we have a lot of information, but how engage all of this information, how we can call it, also thinking from a proportionality viewpoint. So because at the end of the day, the idea is not overburden companies or projects providing data. So what are really the materiality of the data? What is the data we need? If the data are available or not, avoiding to kill the innovation and avoiding to, to impede the competition into the market. So balance between this area is quite important. I would say that one of the fundamental is the lack of harmonized methodology, the lack of common methodology, common principles in order to capture data and in order to report the content of the data. So I think that is why we are working now exactly in this cornerstone of the challenges.
So I'd love to hear a little bit, whatever teasers you can give about the report that is coming out in this year still, when it comes to setting environmental standards by Sensenelec. Is there anything that we can expect?
Yes, we can expect a lot of things, because it's not only working on environmental, we are working on Sensenelec in different areas. But I think that we can expect that in parallel with the industry, the standard have to solve market industry. So it's quite important, let's say, allow the cooperation between a standard and the industry. So more companies engage on a standard are critical. But yes, we can expect not only from an environmental viewpoint, also think on sustainability in the broader viewpoint, thinking also on social aspect of the technology and the economic aspect of the sustainability. And not only a standard it is a discussion now with the European Commission, not only a standard for assets or let's say evaluate the output of the activity. Industries needs also to manage the process, and industry needs tools and references in order to be able to manage their sustainability. So it's not only to assess the output, we have to also support the industry be able to manage, understand, measure, and manage their positive and the negative impact of their activities.
And measuring this positive and negative impact, will that already be reflected in the standards that are being set at the moment, or is that a discussion for future standards?
No, it is now in discussing this moment, not for the end of this year, but maybe in the next year, on a couple of years, we expect to have one standard that gives the big picture of environmental impact of the technology.
Okay, so this first report, will it focus more on, as you said, measuring the output of negative impact of crypto assets or blockchain more broadly?
Yes, but also I mentioned that we have to measure the negative, the positive, but also we should be able to understand the process. So at the end, if there is the famous quote that you cannot manage what you don't measure. So if you don't also understand the process, how you are creating, how you are affecting to your environment, it will be very difficult that the result is better than you expected from the beginning. So I think that we have to support not only guidance or requirements for assess the result of the activities. We need also to work in cooperation with other areas of standard to allow companies manage the environmental aspect of their activities.
And are these standards very different from the ones, or how much do they overlap with the requirements of the MiCA regulation?
Well, when we speak about requirements, we are speaking about minimum requirements. Okay, we are not managing the whole process. We are only identified, this is the key areas, the key requirements, and we establish these minimum requirements. But if we only comply with regulation, it's quite important. Europe or at the international level, any company can compete, because at the end we need to create value, not only to comply with requirements. So in order to create value, in order to create a positive impact, net positive impact, assuming that we will have negative and positive, but at the end, in order to create value, we have to assess more factors, understand better the process, and manage our sustainability from different viewpoints, understanding the complexity, understanding that standards should also consider social aspects, economic aspects, and not only environmental aspect.
Thank you so much, Belen. Are there any final thoughts or maybe final next steps that listeners should keep in mind?
Well, the next steps, I think that is something that the industry have to say, because at the end, I always emphasize that the standards are here to support or to solve market needs. So the market should highlight what are their needs. Of course, we are working now as a main stakeholder of the regulation and the MiCA regulation. But I think that we have to understand MiCA will not be the only one driver for crypto market scale.
I see. Well, there's a lot to look out for then. Thank you so much for explaining these very technical issues, but actually they're so important for the way that different industries will be able to develop in the future and are being developed at the moment. So thank you so much, Belen, and thank you very much for Valument and Mariana de la Roche for organizing these sessions. And yes, hope you had as much insights as I did.
Thank you very much for the invitation, a real pleasure, and hopefully we can continue discussing. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.